I don't know how submission comes up on any sort of date. I don't know if you've ever been on a date in the last 20 years.
So if I ask you, what type of woman do you want? And you go through the traits and you say, I'd also like a submissive woman. Does that make sense to say as a trait?
Sure. I don't know many people that would just offer that up as one of the first things they want in a woman, but maybe those are the people you hang out with.
Who said it's the first? If I'm asking what's your dynamic, and one of the answers is a submissive woman.
Yeah.
That comes up all the time for men.
Let them cook.
Okay. In your circles, perhaps.
Oh, I got some good content for you guys here today. Let's just hop down in there, all right? Now, you guys may be familiar with the Whatever podcast. You may not be familiar with this brother on the left right here who goes by the name of Andrew Wilson. Now, this guy was debating this gentleman. I do not know his name, but essentially he's a male soy boy feminist. And this conversation, at least this clip from the conversation, is so damn good. Let's go through it. Let's get after it, and let's get active. Without further ado.
The only way that message is really disseminated is often through these big content creators. Most of the people come across a red pill from things like Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, this channel. That's how that packet is distributed, and there are prescriptive messages.
How did they come across it?
I don't know. The internet is the internet. The algorithm.
Do you think they made it up?
Do I think who made it up?
That those red pill creators that you're talking about, do you think that they just made all that stuff up?
No, I don't. I think there's too many similar messages for it to be made up.
Yeah, so there's like sources for this stuff, right?
Wherever they're sourcing it from, I'm not sure, but they're disseminating
so like one such source would be a guy, his name is Rollo Tomasi, the godfather of the red pill. He's going to be pissed that I said that because it's like an ongoing meme, but he calls it a praxeology, right? So if it's praxeological from his perspective, he's saying there's no prescriptions here, right? It's not designed around prescriptors. It's designed around descriptors. So if you're going to criticize the red pill, you should probably start by criticizing the descriptors. But if you wanted to criticize individual content creators for their prescriptions, I think that that's fine, but that's not the red pill. The red pill is a data packet of descriptions which are trying to express and explain interpersonal sexual dynamics between men and women.
It's such a fantastic point right here, and I see this all over the internet, specifically content creators that do hit pieces on folks that identify as RP or RP adjacent. What they will do is that they will take a subset of the creators, usually those with the most outrageous views, and then demonize an entire sphere or sector of men that look at content like this as if everyone agrees with them. So they'll take small clips, bunch them together, and then say, oh, look, no wonder men are unhappy today. They're the loneliest that they ever been because they listen to people like that. At the same time, though, there are content creators on this side that do things in order to try to get more outrage views, more rage bait views in order to increase their own numbers. And that has to get called out as well. Why? Because it's dangerous. It overshadows the overwhelming value that men receive from looking at content like this, which is simply to understand the truth, to uncover accountability, to empower men to critically think about their roles within society and the value that they can bring to society. The man on the left has seen nothing but these clips because they do get the most amount of views, and he has formed his idea about the entire thing from those clips without understanding that there are content creators out there that speak with balance and purpose and value, whereas that there are others out there that chase views through conflict. It's time that we start making that distinction.
I think the gentleman you mentioned, most people haven't heard of. I think most people
have heard of him.
I think most of the people are getting their information from the millions of subscriptions to Fresh and Fit and whatever. And
Fresh and Fit, he goes on often. They have a very close
Myron
relationship.
Gaines, I'm sure, is much more popular than him.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, maybe, but Myron Gaines is not are you saying he's the red pill?
I think he's one of them.
Okay, so what is, let's start with that. What is the red pill?
I consider it content that claims to reveal the truth about women but promotes misogyny and male victimhood.
Okay, so you think that the descriptors do that?
I think the content creators that are prescribing what the red pill is.
So it's about content creators.
Sure.
You just think that, so there's just content creators who you disagree with their message.
The majority of the red pill content creators, I disagree with their message.
Well, well, what's the majority? Like, how many do you think there are?
The most popular of the bunch. The ones that have the most viewers, subscribers.
Okay, so who are these guys that you're talking about?
Fresh and Fit is a big one. Andrew Tate is another one. Okay. And the Whatever podcast is another one.
Fresh.
Ask an Andrew Tate about Red Pill, and he's like, what, them dweebs? Like,
And whatever. So here's an easy one. I guess let's start with whatever, because I'm pretty familiar with the content here. So what is the message that's being put out there?
There's a lot of misogynist messages that come out
What
of
are
this
they?
podcast. And I
Well,
have
let's start with
several
what is
lists.
misogyny?
Misogyny is the hatred or dislike of women, the active dislike of women.
Plural, women.
Yeah, correct. The entire gender.
So not the active dislike of a woman.
No, not typically.
So it's just women.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Good.
misogyny is the active hatred or dislike of women.
Yeah.
I love what Andrew's doing here right now, because I think this should be done in all debates or all conversations ever. Because when one person says a word, the other person is going to interpret that word through their own understanding of the word. So you guys can be debating the exact same thing, but have different understandings of the word. So taking time out to define, what do these words mean to you? Meeting them where they are, having an understanding of what they're saying, and then logically deconstructing from that same point is brilliant. It's not easy to do, takes a lot of practice, but watch.
Got it. All right.
And Fresh and Fit is another big
Let's
culprit of that.
Let's start with whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is the misogyny or the dislike of women, which is promoted on this channel?
It's presented as a dating podcast, but it's really not. The topics that typically come up on
Let's
this
start
podcast.
with that. What makes it not a dating podcast?
I'm about to go into that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
A dating podcast should not discuss whether or not women should be submissive, whether women should vote. On Sunday's show, you ask women how many pumps after they tell you to stop is it grape. That's not a dating podcast. That's one of the craziest questions I've ever heard. You basically say divorce hurts men, marriage is pointless. I don't know how that's helping your audience. I don't know how military conscription has anything to do with a dating podcast. I don't know how, guests being shown a submissive ex-girlfriend and saying, would you bow to your husband? Would you bow to your husband? That's not a dating podcast. That is promoting hatred of women and misogyny as well. Female guests are pressured to reveal their body count and then mocked. If they don't reveal, they're interrogated until they reveal. Women with OnlyFans are moralized and told to quit. Male promiscuity is excused and celebrated. Women are asked about their peak looks, age, and questioned incessantly. Segments like Man, Bear versus Woods mock women's very real fears about male violence, even though statistical realities are ignored and dismissed as irrational. The super chat roast. The guests love to shit on these women every chance they get. And on this show, feminism and women are blamed for most of men's problems.
He may have a fair point here. It's not just a dating podcast. It's more like an intersexual dynamics podcast. But before Andrew starts to cook, I think that everybody should realize that no matter what happens on the podcast, the women know what they're signing up for, right? Let's stop babying them. They know what they're in for. They know the type of questions that's going to be asked. They are grown-ups, adults. They show up and they willingly agree to it. Give me a break with all of this white knight. These women need to be saved from conversations like this. If the men are telling the women, hey, stop putting your body online, you demonize the men for giving them advice?
And do you have a copy of that? I'd like to see it, the thing. Because you just shotgunned a bunch of points, and then you want to
I
go
would
You
through
can
like
have
to-
it
one by one.
I also have peer-reviewed studies if you want those too.
Yeah, if you have any, especially if they have a meta-analysis, I'd like to see them.
And just to be, before you give your response, Andrew, my understanding here for the debate was primarily going to be about feminism, not specific criticisms of the.
Well, I mean, this is,
The
Yes,
prompts
but-
were about manosphere and red pill.
yeah, so this is, I'm actually fine with this, right? So, why it's not really a dating podcast, whether women should be submissive, why, I don't understand. Why would that not be relational to dating?
What does submission have to do with dating?
Well, because dating is, especially on a dating show, you would be significantly talking about people's preferences when it came
roles.
to
Yeah.
the social experiences they're having with the opposite sex.
You're not talking about your preferences. You're talking about their preferences. Because when you talk about submission, you're talking about from your worldview, women should be submissive.
Okay, but what from their worldview, that they could also have maybe a counter to that where they shouldn't, or also a lot of them say yes they should. So the idea here for submission, especially, would be I don't see how that's not dating related.
Well, it's because he views submission as oppression. That's why.
I don't know how submission comes up on any sort of date. I don't know if you've ever been on a date in the
Well,
last
if you're
20
asking,
years.
so
but-
okay, so if I ask you, what type of woman do you want? And you go through the traits and you say, I'd also like a submissive woman. Does that make sense to say as a trait?
Sure, I don't know many people that would just offer that up as one of the first things they want in a woman, but maybe those are the people you hang out
who
with.
said it was the first? If I'm
You
asking,
just said if you ask
if I'm
somebody.
asking what's your dynamic, and one of the answers is a submissive woman.
Yeah.
That comes up all the time for men.
Let them
in dating.
cook.
Okay, in your circles, perhaps.
I mean, no, just in what it. Well, how many dating podcast sample sizes do you have here?
I listen. I'm on a dating podcast. I made one. I listen to a lot. I listen to a lot of your shows. I listen to a lot of everything that's out there.
I don't understand any of the dating podcasts that come up when you ask men.
Yeah.
Their preference. They've never once says I would prefer to have a woman who's more submissive.
The topic of submission only comes up on Red Pill podcasts.
No, it doesn't only come up on
Where else does it come up?
It's been on Dr. Phil. It's been everywhere.
Dr. Phil talks about submission
Yeah,
every episode.
yes,
Every
before.
episode.
I didn't say every episode.
Well, that's what
He's
we're
not
talking
doing
about
a dating. Is he doing a dating podcast?
Then
every
don't mention
episode?
Dr. Phil as a dating show.
Is he
then
doing?
Don't mention
You
Dr. Phil as
asked
a
where
dating
else
show.
it's
That's not a
mentioned.
dating show.
You asked where else it's
Dr. Phil
mentioned
as a dating show. That
Yeah.
is not a dating
Yeah,
show.
so in any case, any of the dating podcasts that I've seen, it's a very common answer to say if they want to
Name another dating podcast.
And here's the other thing.
Yo, it is so crazy that the male feminist here is arguing just like a female feminist. This is a toxic woman scorn over here on the right. Highly emotional, deflecting, moving the goalpost. You ask him, what other shows talk about roles, gender roles? He brought up Dr. Phil. So then you move the goalpost that doesn't count because he doesn't bring it up every episode? For real? Meanwhile, he said that he has a dating podcast. I can damn near guarantee you that it's majority women that listen to his bullshit. And exactly why he gets nowhere near the views, because they're not talking about real topics, just more bullshit content to pad women's ears around a false reality that they experience. But instead of addressing these real world situations that both men and women have to have a agreement on, any dating podcast that calls out this topic is misogynistic. Got it.
To dive into this.
Name another dating
Here's
podcast.
the other thing
though.
to dive into this.
Well, you got to name another dating podcast.
Okay, Fresh and
besides
Fit
Dr. Phil.
happens there all the
Red
time.
Pill content. Exactly,
Yeah,
as
well,
I said.
Okay, so when you're talking about a dating podcast, what do you mean by that?
Something a little less, I don't know, misogynistic, perhaps.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I've already explained it to you and defined
If
it.
any man has a dating
thoughts.
podcast, is it Red Pill or
I have a dating
misogynistic?
podcast and it's not misogynistic.
I see. And let me ask you a question. What kind of questions do you ask on your dating podcast?
I ask them what are their priorities in a man. I ask them, do you have advice for men in
And
dating?
how many men have you had on?
Zero. It's called Women on Men.
Oh, I see. So you're a misandrist?
Absolutely not.
Well, I don't understand. Why
He's
don't you want
good.
a man's opinion?
Because
Right.
I want to ask women specifically. Misandry involves hate, and I don't hate men.
Oh, okay. I got
Whoa.
it. So you only have on women,
Correct.
and you don't ask them when you ask them about preferences.
Yeah.
Right. Do they say that they want things like assertive men?
No.
Do they say that they want less assertive men?
I give them a list of 10 traits and say rank these between your top 3 and your bottom 3.
Okay, so you're giving them the answers,
I'm not giving them the answers. They take a lot of time to think about it.
but you just said you gave them 10 traits.
Yeah, that's not the answers. Those are options.
Yeah, that's answers that are options you
Multiple
can choose from.
choice.
So multiple choice.
That's not answers.
Yes, it's answers.
Okay, they're answers, Andrew.
Yeah,
That
you
makes
give them
happy.
10 answers and say choose from
And
these.
then they sort them. Yeah, but that doesn't mean
Yes,
that's their
so
answers.
you're making them choose from answers that you give them.
Okay,
So you're
okay.
literally feeding them their answers,
Yeah,
and
feeding
then
them
they
their
choose
answers.
them.
Yep. And they don't come and say, "Man, I wish you would have had this on
Well,
the
how
list." because
come?
it covers
Why is it then? Well, how long have you been doing it?
Can we get back to misogynistic podcasts?
If it is the case,
Can
that-
we get back to
and we are.
misogynistic
And if
podcasts?
it
No,
is
we're
the
not.
case that it is your criticism.
Can we get back to misogynistic
If you're going to have
podcasts?
criticisms for whatever, I'm going to have criticism for your podcast.
You haven't
Right.
even listened to it, so don't
Bro,
talk about it.
do I need to?
Pull it up and
I
listen
can
to
listen
it.
to it from you.
Go ahead, pull it up on YouTube.
I can listen to it from
Go ahead
you.
and pull it up on YouTube. You have not
Did-
watched my podcast,
okay,
so
did
don't
you-
sit here. We're not
did
going to
you-
critique my
did-
podcast.
why not?
Because you haven't even watched it.
Let's watch it.
Aha, there we go. He doesn't want any criticism on his podcast. So your dating podcast is better because you don't let men speak? How is that even a dating podcast when women just get in an echo chamber and talk about all of the things that they want out of men? How does that get them closer to their goals? How does that help them understand how men actually, in reality, think about things? What's the goal of your podcast? Is it really to bring men and women together? To have them have a deeper understanding of each other, our intersexual dynamics, or just to pander, man versus bear that Incel men want submissive women that ew, bad man. And after all of that, he don't even want to receive feedback from Andrew in regards to his own platform. Go figure.
Go ahead, pull it up.
So if we pull up
got
your
45
podcast
minutes.
right now, I can take a
45
look?
minutes. 45 minutes. Put on 2 times speed, and then we can critique my podcast.
Yeah.
But until then, tell me about another non-misogynistic red pill podcast.
Well, I don't think any of those are misogynistic podcasts.
Yeah, of course not.
You got to demonstrate that they actually hate these women.
By their actions, by the things, everything that's happening right there.
Yeah. So let's go through some more of these.
When Myron Gaines has a college table that says women deserve less, you don't think that's a little misogynistic?
Is that during his podcast?
He is one of the red pill content creators
I thought,
that we're talking
I had
about.
to be a podcast.
Dude,
I thought I had to be a podcast.
Can you
now
act
it
like an
doesn't have to
adult?
be a podcast.
Can you act like an adult? That is the most childish thing
How
I've
is
ever
it?
seen in my whole life.
You put you gave me the criteria.
The criteria is the content creators,
Oh, it's the
including Myron
content.
Gaines. Yes,
Got it.
I've always said
Got it.
that. Nothing's changed in my
as
statement.
we're talking about dating podcasts, or
Correct.
the idea of dating.
Correct.
Is it also possible there's just not that many?
Yeah, there's not a lot of red pill podcasts. The main
No,
ones,
just dating podcasts.
There's a ton of dating podcasts.
Okay, name some.
Mine.
Name some other ones.
There's a guy named Man We're in Trouble. There's Evie Edit. There's
Evie Edit's a dating podcast?
Yeah, she talks about dating and men and women.
Is it a dating podcast though?
Yes.
So they have.
This isn't a dating podcast.
So hang on. So they have.
This isn't a dating podcast.
So on Evie Edit, they have. Every single time they come on, they have multitudes of people on with them, and all they talk
I didn't
about
necessarily say they have guests. I'm not talking about the format. I'm saying that's what the content that comes up is men and women, and this is not a dating podcast that we're currently on.
So you're just talking about, for you, a dating podcast, just anybody who's talking about dating.
This is not a dating podcast that we're currently on.
Well, prove it.
I just did.
How? Let's go through more.
You want me to read them? So here, why don't we do the first one? Whether women should be submissive. I don't
understand how would that not be? Yeah, actually, how would that not be?
Please explain.
A decent question to ask for dating. I don't get it.
Do you ask that on your first dates?
What, if a woman would be submissive?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly, because it's not a dating question.
Why would that?
Why would it be on
hang
the first date?
Let's back up. Let's assume for a second that anything that I would ask a woman on the first date isn't something you would ask a woman on the first date. What does that prove?
I'm saying the things you guys do. Do you think you're going to look
can you
better in 10 years? Do you think you're
answer
going to
my
look better in 10
question?
years? Is that something you asked on the
Answer
date?
my question.
What's
The
your body
soy is
count?
coming
You asked
out.
that on the first date?
Can you answer my
Do you
question?
ask what's a body count on the first date?
Before you start shotgun.
you had-
The descriptor of first date makes him feel like he's correct. What if it's the second? What if it's the third? What if it's a month into the relationship? Does the date really matter, or the fact that men and women have these different discussions? Men like this don't even just sit down to pee. When they sit down, they turn around 180 degrees and face the back of that bowl. Ugh, disgusting work.
Yeah, you have
Shotgunning.
different questions.
Before you start
have different
shotgunning questions,
you
just-
have different questions.
I'll never answer one of yours if you never answer one of mine.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So here we go again. What does it actually prove? What does it prove that if I asked a whole sequence of different questions from you on my first date, what does that prove?
Yeah, you're not asking these questions on your first
Can you
date.
answer my question?
I just did.
What does it prove?
It proves that you're not asking these questions
So
on
it
your
doesn't
first
prove
date.
anything?
It does prove it.
What does it prove?
That you're not asking these kinds of questions on your first date.
So what is that proving outside of that?
It proves that these are more
Does
misogynistic
it also
questions.
hang on? Does it also prove that I don't ask any other questions other people would ask that you're not asking here?
I have no idea if it proves it
Like
or
it's
not.
just so stupid, dude. It
So
proves
ridiculous.
nothing.
Okay.
What does it prove?
What do those questions prove?
Nothing. They don't prove anything.
Okay.
Guys, I'm going to leave a link down in the description box down below for you to check out the entire debate. Andrew Wilson, who deserves a round of applause right here, absolutely cooked fries and fricassees the young male feminists on the right for like 2 hours. And maybe even be 3 hours. But conversations like this are so important because what you find is that people have feelings in regards to something, and they find other groups of people with the exact same feelings about something, but they haven't been pressure tested to pull out why what they think either A, actually matters, or B, to prove that what they feel is a component of reality as opposed to just being something that they feel due to their own biases, due to their own experiences, and how they think that people should operate. You often find that men like this on the right want nothing more than for people that do not agree with them to just be quiet, to just shut up, to not talk about these things anymore because they only view their perspective as being the truth. But men like this and feminists like this is exactly why RP content has grown. unchecked conversations like this for decades that have painted men as savages, as animals, as those within a patriarchy constantly oppressing women, keeping them down. How dare you have conversations in regards to things that actually matter to men? Body count, that should never matter at all. Let these women do whatever it is that they want to do. Yeah, they want to go on OnlyFans. They should be expected to be married in 10 years. And how dare you as a man challenge them in their quest of doing whatever it is that you want to do. He's in the mindset that you can have it all. He's in the mindset that women can do no wrong, that there's no consequences for their actions. And it's a great example of the mindset. And this goes for the MTRs that are listening to this content as well. But the mindset of these male feminists who are constantly lying to you, making you feel good within the content by pandering to you. Meanwhile, they can't even properly articulate an argument that makes any damn sense. For all of my guys out there, shout out to the MT Army. I know that we have all been programmed from the various sources all throughout our life, throughout our childhood. And a lot of us have still time and ways to go to remove the programming, to deprogram ourselves to understand the truth. But above all, understand that you cannot be like this man right here. Do not be afraid to ask important questions to uncover the truth, especially if it's meaningful you to your life as well as you seeking your peace. Understanding how to think and critically think about these topics is one of the steps that's necessary to inevitably making one of the most important decisions within your life, should you choose to make it, which is choosing a significant other. Be proud of yourselves, gentlemen. Be proud of your masculinity. And don't you dare let these soy boys do anything to disturb it. All right? Shout out to everybody. I appreciate you guys if you stayed with me to this part of the content. Light up the comment section. I want to see what you guys think about this debate. Again, link to it down in the description box down below if you guys want to see the entire thing. And until next time, YouTube, peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.